Valtteri, oh, for God's sake. Oh my God. I said it, it didn't even sound right. Now, the head guy, James, came over on the radio. Not only was it Valtteri, it's James, it was Valtteri, sorry, Lewis, it's oh, for sake. I've done that. Valtteri, it's Lewis. I'm saying it wrong. What? For God's sake. Right. I can't even say it. Right. Valtteri, it's Lewis. I can't even do it. Oh, wow. Right. Composure. Professional.
We've never had a start of a season in July. It's the latest time we've ever started a season. And when we have round one, the opening round is normally a bit of a procession. You know, the fastest guys from winter testing go ahead. Nothing like that happened on Sunday. Absolutely nothing. We were treated to, in what is already the most quirkiest season we've ever had in Formula 1, one of the most quirkiest races we've ever had in Formula 1 ever. The Austrian Grand Prix behind closed doors was full, action-packed of just, to be honest, if you didn't watch it, you won't even believe. If I was telling you right now, you wouldn't believe actually what happened. We had 11 classified finishers. 20 drivers and 11 finished. Nick Latifi in the Williams was the only non-scorer, which, I mean, yes, that's, you know, a massive shame for him, but we had 11 finishes. Sebastian Vettel was almost in last place. It was such an action-packed race, and of course, go and check that out if you haven't already, but I imagine that you have. This week is round 2, and we are heading to the new location of where we were last weekend. And of course, we're not going to make this a long preview because it's just exactly the same in Austria. This is round 2, the 2020 Styrian Grand Prix preview. Now, of course, that is the name of the Austrian region we are in right now, ahead of the race. To be honest, exactly the same as what it is, of course. Same amount of race around Red Bull Ring. But we're really excited to see what the cars actually are going to be like in round 2 after the improvement that they'll be making after round 1. We saw Mercedes being incredibly strong, but a few problems coming out. You know, they were incredibly strong in qualifying and practice, but not as strong in the race. Bottas on charge as always, like Austria 2019, like the opening round. He was on fire. It was a how about that. Red Bull Racing, Max Verstappen, and even Alex Albon having problems with their power units. Lewis Hamilton takes Albon out, very much like Brazil. We see some problems for Haas. We see Racing Point incredibly strong, and of course McLaren get a second podium. One race separated Brazil and here when they had a previous podium in Brazil. It's absolutely crazy. McLaren looking like they're on the rise, and of course the guy on the other side of the screen will definitely want that as well. So let's head into round 2, and of course let's get the preview started with an onboard lap from Lando Norris in the brand new F1 2020 video game. Now, of course, last week we had the lap done on the F1 2019 game by Max Verstappen. This week we are riding on board with the man who got his first podium here at the Red Bull Ring, the youngest Brit to ever stand on the podium, and of course this is done by Dan from F1E Reviews. Here is a lap of Lando Norris around the Red Bull Ring on the brand new F1 20 video game. Enjoy.
Riding on board here with Lando Norris, who finished on the podium for the first time in his F1 career on the race on Sunday. So heading towards turn 1, then the Lauda curve. Expect a lot of overtakes here. Of course, some drivers going wide, as we've seen at the race on Sunday, hitting them apexes there. And of course, these curves are very, very dangerous towards the cars, as we've seen in practice and in qualifying. Heading towards turn 3 then, and it is a hard braking zone down to second gear. Expect a lot of overtakes here, hitting the apex as well, getting a nice exit towards the next DRS zone. Heading towards the very controversial turn 4, a downhill section, very heavy braking, expecting a lot of lockups, maybe an overtake or two like we've seen on Sunday with Alexander Albon and Lewis Hamilton. It's very easy to lose the car here, losing the rear end and going off onto the gravel traps like we've seen with Valtteri Bottas in qualifying as well, and of course Lewis Hamilton didn't slow down for that. Heading towards turn 7 and 8 then, a long left-hander followed by another right-hander, hitting the apexes and then getting towards the end of the lap, then a downhill section, and again going wide here could result in you losing some bodywork down towards turn 9, the Ring curve, and then in towards turn 10, the final corner, getting a good exit there. If the cars go wide, your time will be deleted and it's across the line, and that is a lap of the Red Bull Ring for this weekend's Styrian Grand Prix. Look at what's being said heading into the round 2 of the 2020 Formula 1 season. Now, like what Lal explained earlier, it was a really, really good Grand Prix. However, it didn't go as smoothly for the race winner as it would have liked. You know, the reigning Constructors Champions and, of course, the reigning, Drivers' World Champion Lewis Hamilton and, of course, race winner Valtteri Bottas. Didn't go quite smoothly, did it? They encountered a bit of a problem with the gearbox. Now, James Allison came over the team radio, and it wasn't only Valtteri, it's James, it was Lewis, it's James. It was like, whoa, I've never heard Lewis, it's James before. How weird's that? It basically explained, do not, and it's critical, do not ride over the curbs. And they kept doing it, and they kept doing it, and it was getting very critical. Now, Mercedes have came out this week and explained that it was a problem that they discovered in FP1. It's a fundamental issue with the design of the car that sends shockwaves into the system, which ultimately affect, I think they call it electric shock or electrical shocks. I think it was. I'm not too clued up as to what that means, but that's what they're saying. That's what caused it, and the risk of it of the car failing altogether. So I'm expecting some problems again to arise with that Grand Prix. It's a very demanding track. Despite it being so short, the curbs are very harsh on the car. They send it like AWOL. We're seeing loads of debris flying off cars, especially with the McLarens in practice and in qualifying. So Mercedes have said that they have brought little upgrades to the car to hopefully improve and manage that problem just a little bit. But they're also saying that it could take longer than a race. So they are bringing some little upgrades for this weekend, but that might not solve the issue overnight. It might take until Hungary or even further on at Silverstone, and probably we might hear the same message again over the team radio, telling the drivers to stay off the curbs. Another team that struggled, which was blatantly obvious, was Ferrari. Now, Ferrari looked very off the pace, not only in practice and in qualifying, but in the race as well. Charles Leclerc did a brilliant job to get that car into P2. It was absolutely brilliant what the Monegasque driver did on Sunday. I'm not expecting similar kind of heroics from that team. However, I explained in the last kind of mini news segment in the Austrian Grand Prix preview was that they are going to be bringing upgrades to the Hungarian Grand Prix to improve the car. They're not anymore. They're bringing some of the upgrades forward to this weekend because it was critical. It was just abysmal. Like, Ferrari surprised themselves as to how slow they were. Not only were they a second off the pace of the Mercedes, they were nearly a second slower than they were a year ago with the same car. Well, with their 2019 car. Like, they've just went backwards in development. That's how bad Ferrari are in 2020. And it's like, guys, we can't have this again. So they're bringing some upgrades to this weekend. Will that improve things? I'm guessing not, because as you can clearly see in qualifying, the power unit it let them down badly. Austria is a power unit circuit. It's not meant for aero or in any shape or form, so I don't think it'll help massively. It might get them both cars into Q3, but that's it, I'm afraid. I can't see it improving it any in terms of power. And of course, Alfa Romeo and Haas, they struggled as well. Only one Ferrari powered car got into Q2 compared to 5 Ferrari powered cars got into Q3 last season. So I'm not expecting good things from Ferrari, but that's, in terms of upgrades, that's the two main ones that are bringing upgrades to help with their issues. Other teams, I think, will be bringing 1 or 2 little upgrades as well. And of course, FP1, we've got a few new drivers making an appearance this season. Well, I say new driver, one making a brilliant return to the track, to a Grand Prix weekend. Robert Kubica will be jumping into the Alfa Romeo car for FP1. Really good to see. He did make a little outing in testing, and then of course it'll be good to see him back on the track. Hopefully not being last like he was a lot last season with the Williams. And another driver making his actually debut in FP1 with the Williams is Jack Aitken. George Russell will be stepping aside. Jack Aitken will be jumping in the car on Friday and seeing how he does on his debut. He's driven Formula 1 cars before, not in practice ever, so we'll see how good he is and see what he's like during an FP1 session. Of course, he will be making more than one appearance this season, as will Robert Kubica. I think that's it in terms of practice drivers who will be jumping into the car. And that's pretty much our news caught up. Things that are being said throughout the build-up towards the Styrian Grand Prix for round 2. So moving on to the almost the final part of our short preview, which is the predictions. Now, we actually, well, before I begin, we are running a prediction league, which if you haven't already explained, well, if we haven't already explained it to you guys, rules and everything will be in the description below where you can have a look what the scoring system is and how does it all work. But basically, what we're asking for is your top 3 drivers for the Grand Prix on Sunday and your fastest lap. Who will get fastest lap on Sunday? Let us know in the comment section below, and of course over on Twitter as well, where you can find a certain tweet explaining the rules. Comment underneath that, only that post alone, and underneath this video, just in case we do lose any predictions, because we don't want that. So my top 3, I scored no points in the last Grand Prix. I like a lot of people did, but that's not a good way to get the ball rolling. So this week, well, I say this week at the same race, I'm going to go with P3 Alexander Albon. Now, Albon was so unlucky not to finish onto the podium on Sunday. Came together with Lewis Hamilton. Commiserations, Albon. But it is coming. It's going to happen at some point. Red Bull did look strong. They did have reliability problems. Will that occur again? Only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see if they have solved that the little issue that they had with their car. I'm hoping Albon does, redemption of, twice in the past 3 races, essentially, where he's nearly got onto the podium and he hasn't, by the same guy, Lewis Hamilton. Can he do it for the 3rd time? Let's hope not. Let's hope Hamilton stays out of his way and Albon can get a podium this weekend. So, my P3 is going to be Alexander Albon. P2, I'm going to go with Valtteri Bottas. Let's go with Valtteri Bottas, who had an absolutely... I say like, a stressless Grand Prix, but of course he had that problem with his gearbox. But he led from start to finish, which is really, really good. He got pole position as well, so just to add to a brilliant record that he does have at this circuit. I think only him and 2 or 3 other drivers have had 3 or more pole positions at this circuit. So he's very, very strong here. I'm expecting him to be strong again, but he's also got his teammate to encounter, who he didn't really have a smooth weekend whatsoever. He did encounter a couple of problems. He had that grid demotion. He had that collision with Albon. Not a good way to get the season started, was it, Lewis Hamilton? But I'm pretty sure he'll come back bouncing on a high. So, yeah, I'm expecting good things as well from the 2 Mercedes drivers who did have a very strong weekend. Maybe they can't overcome their problems, like I said earlier. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I'm just going off car performance alone. And, yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to say Valtteri Bottas for P2. And my race winner, who I believe will win, I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton this week. Now, Hamilton, like I said, he didn't have a good start of the season. But this is Hamilton. When he has a bad race or a bad end of the season, he always comes back even stronger, and that's what he'll be doing this weekend. He'll be right. Okay, I know where Valtteri's strong. I know where I messed up, and that's a really interesting thing about having another Grand Prix at the same circuit a week later, because you can now rectify the problems that you had during the race. So if you were like, oh, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, well, now you can not do them anymore. You can just, right, okay, this is where I went wrong. I won't do it again this week. So I'm expecting some improvements from Lewis Hamilton as well, and of course the Red Bulls to go alongside that. But yeah, I think it will be an interesting Grand Prix. I didn't say Verstappen onto the podium, which, yeah, it could be controversial, but I want Albon to be on the podium, so I'm going to put him on the podium as well, like P3. P2, last race winner, Valtteri Bottas. And P1, Lewis Hamilton, who will hopefully come back stronger and take another race win, and one step closer to that record of Michael Schumacher. So that's my top 3: Alexander Albon, Valtteri Bottas, and Lewis Hamilton. Like I said, leave your top 3 in the comment section below, and your fastest lap, who I haven't even said. I haven't even said my fastest lap. So my fastest lap, I will predict it to be... but it was Lando Norris, wasn't it, last time? That was a surprise. Let's go with Max Verstappen for the fastest laps. Just something different. I've said different top 3. Let's go with Verstappen for fastest lap. Lyle, what's your top 3 for the Grand Prix and why?
To be honest, the one thing I can say which won't happen like it did last week, which is 11th classified finishes. That was absolutely insane. And I was saying to John before about... I think what would have made it an even better race for me, probably one of like the best I've ever seen, is if Nicholas Latifi either overtook Sebastian Vettel, or even if it was 10 finishes and actually got into the point. That would have been incredible. But still, it was a good race for him. Obviously, good debut for the Canadian at Williams. And it was a good race nevertheless. Of course, Sebastian Vettel finishing second off last, I think, in classified finishes. He will not want to remember that. We all expected just quite a processional race, not much to change. And apart from Mercedes winning at the front, it was anything but that. Lando Norris's podium, incredible. The pace of the racing points, pace of the AlphaTauris, even like Alfa Romeo was sticking in there. Williams were on set to get a good finish for them, obviously apart from George retiring. And Red Bull, we all thought they were going to dominate and didn't. And of course, as Jordan said there, the main one was Ferrari. So my predictions have changed a little bit from last week, but going off the vibe of last week, I'm not going to change them to anything massively quirky. So in third place, I'm going to go for Max Verstappen. Now, you might think that's just a little bit low for him. Now, Red Bull have said that there have been a lot of power unit problems coming out of their camp. Now, of course, Max, failure on lap 11, and Alexander Albon, radiator problems with his power unit failing towards the end of the race. Now, of course, they said that might have been caused by him running into Lewis running into Albon. But obviously nothing is, confirmed out of that. Maybe marbles or maybe gravel got into that, but nevertheless, they had problems. Double DNF, double retirement, 0 points for Red Bull at the bottom alongside Williams, which isn't great for them. It's round one, and what could be a very short season. They need these results. And this is why people are saying Valtteri might win the World Championship now. I know it's early to say, but it's round one out of what could be a short season. One of the shortest we've seen in really modern times. Of course, the latest start of the season, I've said, maybe the latest finish. It's a weird, quirky season, so everything needs to count, right on the day. And of course, it wasn't their fault, but just something that happened. We know that he's hungry. I'm just going to go over all the grammar. We know that he's hungry. We know that he wants the best finish at the Red Bull Ring. One of his home races, of course. There's no home crowd, but he's not even going to Zandvoort, so this is the closest to home race he can. Of course, a lot of normal Dutch people coming down to watch this, and of course the home of Red Bull. We all know his figures, we all know he wants this win, of course, winning back 2019 and 2018 as well. Not much to say about him. I just think that he will get that good position. I think he will be outbeaten by the two people I'm going to put ahead of him. One might really surprise you. But there we go, Max Verstappen in third place. In second place, I'm going to go for Lewis Hamilton. Now, the thing that got me, that was a little bit strange. Now, I know, obviously, there's been team orders, like John said at the start, Valtteri, it's James, and James Valtteri, and all that jargon. I know there's team orders, and I know people want to win, for themselves, but the one thing that got me was when Lewis Hamilton got his grid penalty. If Mercedes wanted to kind of fiddle around and say, maybe there's a chance of not getting kicked off the podium here, is why didn't they maybe switch Valtteri and Lewis around? I just felt like they could have put a little bit more effort into that if they wanted to. Now, of course, I'm not saying that it should have happened because Valtteri, would have wanted to win the race. We all know that's Russia 2018 calling, the fact where he would have moved over for his teammate. I just thought that, normal, typical Mercedes, normal, typical Lewis, we might have thought he would be thinking something like that. But nevertheless, he got the grid penalty. I'm not going to comment on the Albon crash. I would say it's just a little bit of a racing error, but Lewis Hamilton was definitely on the mark on this race. Really big for him. Obviously, he's wanting to get back as everyone else has, and that black Mercedes has been incredibly powerful. Great race from him, and it was heading into a Mercedes 1-2, of course, until he collided with Alex. Total mistake. So yeah, I think that he will have a good weekend this one. Hopefully he'll stay out of trouble. Normally we see Lewis Hamilton staying out of trouble like he normally does. Now again, like John said at the start, Mercedes are plagued with a bit of a problem. The power unit might be, it might cause might be bad for them, but let's hope that nothing goes bad for them, and hopefully nothing does, and obviously if it doesn't, should be a good race for him and keeping his championship hopes alive, because like I've just said there with Valtteri Bottas and like Max Verstappen, in this season everything counts right now. Valtteri's the leader, and that could definitely help him in the long run. And in first place, I'm going to go for a massive one to shake it all up. I said Charles Leclerc would finish on the podium last weekend and win the race, so making up for what happened in the 2019 edition. Second place for him was incredible, but the pace of that Ferrari is just not there. Sebastian, no way. And Valtteri, I think he's had his turn. So now I'm going to say the Thai British driver of Alexander Albon. He's going to win the race. It's his time. It really, really is. And there's nothing saying that he can't beat Max Verstappen. Sometimes I see, people saying, Max is better than Albon and things like that. And really, we have seen the pace from Alex. We have seen the determination. We have seen the grit. He's had some great battles in the past, even battling Lewis. And you might even say, well, you know, where does that come from? But you could even say things like, he wouldn't have taken Lewis Hamilton on that corner going down into turn 4 downhill. He wouldn't have done that if he wasn't as strong a driver as he was. He went on the outside of Lewis, which, to be honest, is kind of bordering between off and on the racing line. You know, it was a ballsy move, but it just shows that's the Alex Albon that got promoted from Toro Rosso, the Formula 2 Alexander Albon, the strong, the you know, just give everything on the track. And yeah, sometimes you just got to say, why not? I do think that he can beat Max. I do think that he can beat Lewis. And if Red Bull do have the pace, then yeah, there's no way that he will play second fiddle to Max. He could be the second driver. I think that he will, you know, beat the Mercedes if Red Bull are strong enough and don't have problems. And I think he will take his win even before he gets just a normal podium. I think his first time on the podium will be a win. And like we said on the Agree or Disagree a few weeks ago, I think it was the Austria edition. You know, we had a question there. You know, Alex can win the race. Of course he can. And you know, maybe I was just saying a little bit there just to spice it up, but no, I do think that he will. He'll definitely get a win this year. And I think, again, like, you know, we said before with Max and things like that, this car, Red Bull, really suit this track. And if that's the case, then, you know, there's no way I don't think that it will be Alex Albon. So I do think that he will win. So there we go. That is my podium. Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and Alex Albon. Fastest lap, I'm going to say Sergio Perez, who are also, I'm just going to throw it in there. Obviously, it doesn't count for the prediction league or anything like that, but I'm just going to throw it in there. 4th place. And again, you know, that just pushes Valtteri a little bit further back, pushes Charles back, pushes Seb back. But the racing points have been very, very strong. And I do have a really good feeling for the Mexican and that team going forward. Even him and Lance Stroll. And I'm definitely thinking that they will get on the podium many, many times. And you never know. They might even show promise of a race win later on this season. And yeah, it can definitely get there. But as I've said there at the start, the midfield has been incredible. We've had some incredible battles. Every single team, I would say, apart from, of course, you know, Haas, Alfa Romeo and Williams, unfortunately, are all in the mix. And to be honest, I could even see maybe an AlphaTauri, if they look strong, getting on the podium and possibly getting a win. Of course, that's few and far between, very far-fetched. But the podium is definitely there. We have seen stranger things happen in F1. So there we go. That is my podium. And there's our podiums for round 2, the 2020 Styrian Grand Prix, ahead of us on Sunday at the Red Bull Ring, the same venue as round 1. We are in round 2. Formula 1 season is flying by. No, it's not really. I can't believe we even started in July. And we're going to keep saying that until Abu Dhabi, but we are finally back in Formula 1. So guys, thank you very much for watching our preview show. That is the end. If you are new around here, please like and subscribe. We have so much more content coming your way throughout the 2020 F1 season. Again, like John said, you know, keep interaction with our prediction league. We hope that you, you know, will enter. As I say, you can use any of our social media accounts to post your top 3 and fast lap, and you'll be entered into the prediction league. You can see the scores from last round as well, again, over on our Twitter page as well. A lot of fun, you know, guys, we hope that you really enjoy that as well. Hope you enjoy the race as well, and of course, I've just said that, keep on track with us. On Sunday afternoon after the race and straight after the race, we'll be doing a live stream of round 2, all of the action, and that will be summed up by Jordan, the man who told you about the prediction league, and of course the man who is not me. So yes, we hope that you can join us for that. Thank you very much for watching this preview show. Enjoy the weekend in Austria, in Styria, and until next time, guys, we'll see you later.